to the Thought Snob Podcast. I'm Paula Swope. Let's get snobby. Today's conversation is not your average, ordinary conversation because Danielle Radin is here to reveal some scary truths about narcissism. Danielle is an Emmy Award-winning journalist, reporter, author, certified domestic violence counselor, recipient of the Women's Symposium Diamond Award, and narcissistic abuse recovery coach. Danielle is an expert in narcissistic personality disorder. And today, she will discuss the psychological underpinnings of narcissism and how narcissistic people construct their web of lies and rationalize their toxic behavior. Danielle, I am absolutely thrilled that you were available to have this conversation with me today because narcissism has increasingly gotten more and more media attention. And I've heard many experts say that it's misunderstood. And so that was my motivation for bringing you on the show. And I ordered your new book. And I so wish I would have had this years ago when I was trapped inside the narcissistic web, because you've outlined very clear strategies for dealing with a narcissist. And we'll certainly talk about those strategies today. Mm-hmm. And I just want to kick off our conversation by saying, I feel like that social media has overused the word narcissist. Like, what I mean by this is every time that someone experiences a breakup or maybe they don't get what they want out of a person, then their go-to is just, to label them a narcissist. And I don't feel like that narcissistic people are on every corner. I mean, thank God they aren't. But I would really like to know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. Really
Absolutely.
Honored to and appreciative to be speaking on this topic. I do think that it has become a buzzword lately where it's more in the public rhetoric. It used to be that it was this kind of hush-hush thing. People thought it was maybe just serial killers or somebody who was just looking at themselves in the mirror constantly, right? They didn't really know until social media kind of perpetuated the word and the symptoms and all of that. So is it possible that a lot of these toxic people are being grouped into narcissistic personality disorder, which has a certain amount of traits? Absolutely. With that said, I think that it's grossly undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, and underdiagnosed because narcissists don't get therapy at the end of the day. So when people are saying that, it's only 1 to 5% of the population, I think that it's actually a lot more than that. It's just that there's not therapists there to clinically diagnose the person. And I think it's becoming more and more apparent and prevalent because our society is so social media based, that brings out certain traits in people that are narcissistic traits. So while they're not necessarily diagnosed NPD, sometimes the people who have enough narcissistic traits can be really detrimental to your life and in romantic relationships. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting question. And it is kind of a buzzword right now.
Mm-hmm. That's funny that you say that narcissistic people don't get diagnosed. The two narcissistic people that I have dealt with, they have no clue. They have no freaking clue. They are painfully unaware.
And that's part of the personality disorder, is that this is not a self-aware individual, which leads to a huge amount of problems. They have these so-called self-aware narcissists on social media now. And I don't know if this is visual, but I'm doing air quotes when I say self-aware narcissist, because it is kind of a paradox to call yourself a self-aware narcissist. By default, if you have narcissistic personality disorder, you have an issue perceiving the world around you in the reality that all of us live in, all the rest of us live in.
Mm-hmm. That is very, very interesting and really hits home with the experiences that I've had. And it leads me to wanting to talk about subconscious beliefs. Because when, let's say, you've been raised by a narcissistic person, like I was, there's a lot of mind games. And, this person's good moods would leave me, elevated, and their bad moods would just leave me, really deflated. And, my parent had this favorites list, and, I was at the very top of that list for so long. But then all of a sudden, I wasn't on it anymore. And I was just suddenly, kind of in a very cruel way, just replaced. And so when you're very young, that type of confusion really messes with you because it interferes with your self-esteem and your self-confidence and the way that you perceive yourself in the world and how people should treat you. And so do you see that a lot in your work? Because with me, it was a brutal, consistent pattern. And so do you see that same thing with those subconscious beliefs in your client or your patients?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you are raised by narcissistic parents, it almost forces you to become a people pleaser because you are constantly trying to assess what the mood of that person is. You're trying to please somebody who's completely unpleasable. And so your self-esteem goes outward into external validation. Is what I'm doing okay? Is what I'm doing not okay? This thing made them mad yesterday, but now they're happy about it. Yesterday, I was the golden child, and now I'm the scapegoat, right? So when you grow up in that dynamic, you become a people pleaser where you're trying to assess, does this person like me? Do they not like me? Because that's what you were conditioned to do growing up in order to feel safe.
Sure.
And that makes you a target for future narcissists because you're willing in your adult life to just sacrifice yourself in order to appease somebody. And narcissists will just steamroll right into your life. They don't take no for an answer. They violate your boundaries. And if you're someone who is accustomed to that kind of personality growing up, you're almost a magnet for them when you're an adult.
Yeah. And it causes you to, self-loathe a lot. And self-loathing breeds some really savvy people pleasers. And I was a textbook people pleaser. But on the outside looking in, people thought that I was confident, but I'd gotten really, really good at putting up a front because that's really what you have to do when you are that close with a narcissistic person because, man, they love public humiliation. I mean, the humiliation trauma was very, very prevalent with me and took many, many years to process all of that and get past it. Is that something that you see a lot too?
Well, yeah, narcissists are only interested in power and control. And if they can use the threat of public humiliation, mortifying you, embarrassing you in front of others, it's a power move and they get total control over you. In the case of a narcissistic parent, they don't see their child as their own autonomous human with their own thoughts, feelings, emotions. They see them as a pawn. How can I use the child to get back at my ex? How can I use the child to look impressive to others?
Oh my God, yes.
And so if this child's not the top soccer star, they're going to get punished for it.
God, that is so true.
You're born with a job to make this narcissist look impressive or to serve this narcissist in some way. And children shouldn't be born with a job, right? And it puts a lot of pressure on you because even if you are that golden child, they're always having the threat that you can be pulled from your throne, if you will, at any given point. And then you're going to feel my wrath. And then you're going to be triangulated against your own siblings where you're now competing for my love.
God, that just
So
described my childhood perfectly.
yeah, it's a lose-lose situation for the kids.
No doubt.
And you can see why, because it's so confusing and it's so toxic, how it can breed other narcissists. So you could be bred to be too empathetic, a people pleaser, or it could go the other way where you might have, some narcissistic siblings that pick up on your parents' traits.
Do you think that it's possible for a narcissistic parent to authentically love their child?
I don't think that it's possible, because in order to authentically love anyone else, you first have to recognize that they're a human worthy of love, which narcissists don't do. They love you to the extent of what you do for them. You also have to put that child over your own needs pretty much all the time, and they don't do that either.
Right.
If the child needs something that is not in their very thin narrative of how the world is, they'll just completely reject it, dehumanize the child, convince them why their feelings are wrong, which is what they do in all their relationships. So,
right.
No, I think, they're capable of loving their children to the extent that they can. Is that enough to be worth anything? Probably not.
Right. Whew. That's deep. Very, very deep. But I'm so glad that I asked you that question, because I've often thought about the answer, and my go-to answer has been no, that it's not possible. I don't think that they're really possible of loving anybody. I mean, like you just said. Do you think they love themselves?
I think that they hate themselves.
I do too.
I think that they face a paradox, because they really do hate themselves, but they think they're perfect at the same time. And so there's nothing really going on in them on the inside except for a deep shame that they continue to push down, and feelings of being unworthy of love. They see the world as dangerous. They don't really have a core identity. It's just based on external validation, external factors. And they live their lives with this mask that they paint for society. And if you poke holes in the mask, if you try to hold them accountable, they're going to blow up, get angry, discard you, because there's nothing underneath that. To hold them accountable is to poke holes in their entire identity that they've crafted in order to function in the world. And so if you don't have a core identity and you really hate yourself, how are you supposed to love other people?
Right. Right. It's something else. It's absolutely fascinating, but at the same time, it is very, very, very sad when you actually encounter a person that has that type of overwhelming impact on you and your socialization, because it really does follow you from childhood into adulthood. And if you don't realize what's happened, then, you're right. I mean, I think you can go either way. You can be a people pleaser, or maybe you might, have more narcissistic traits yourself. And so, it just the whole conversation is always fascinated me. And as I've been reading your book, you mentioned a term that I had not heard of before: dog whistling. Would you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, if you were being publicly humiliated in your childhood, then I can almost guarantee you experienced dog whistling at some point. It's a very passive aggressive form of gaslighting, where the narcissist will say something seemingly innocent in front of people that is actually mortifying to you, because you know the context of it. And so other people can't understand why you're reacting the way that you are, but it's like a dog whistle where only you can hear it. So an example is, maybe the narcissist is it's a husband and wife, and the husband's the narcissist, and he's berating the wife. You never clean the house. You don't do enough for me. You never, do the dishes, and this place is a mess. And she's been slaving all day trying to make the house clean, and she can't appease him, and she starts crying, and then they have to go to a dinner party. They go to a dinner party, and the narcissist is saying, "Wow, Susie, you keep your house so clean. You are such a great wife. Look at all that you do for your husband. You are amazing." So Susie and her husband are over here like, "Oh, that's so nice. What a compliment, And the victim is like practically crying on the verge of tears, feeling mortified because they know the context that the narcissist is taking a total dig. And the subtext is, "You're a bad wife. I wish I was married to this person instead of you," right? And so the victim might even start to freak out and cry and get angry. Now this other couple is thinking that the wife is the crazy one. They're like, "He just said something nice. Why are you getting so upset by that?" So that's called dog whistling, and they do it over and over and over and over and over and over. Bam, 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 every single day. And it just wears you down and wears you down.
It's those mind games.
It's mind games. It's a power move.
Yeah.
It's public humiliation. It's gaslighting. It makes you feel crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you call their hand on it, they act like they have done absolutely nothing wrong and that it's all in your head.
Oh, yeah. And that's where the comes in, right? I can't even give you a compliment without you jumping down my throat. They know what they're doing.
Yes, they do. They absolutely do. So I think many of us, many people have narcissistic traits, maybe especially when we're younger. And, tell me if you disagree. But I know, when after reading your book and then doing just the research I've done over the years about narcissistic people in general, there is a distinction between a person with narcissistic traits and then a person who actually has narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. So what do you think maybe causes a person to go like full throttle into NPD? I mean, do you think that something causes those traits to grow and turn into NPD?
Well, it can come from a variety of factors. If it's a psychopath, all psychopaths are narcissists. Not all narcissists are psychopaths. It's genetic. Their brain was just broken from when they were born, and they're not exactly sure what it was. If you have a narcissistic tendency, and then you go through some kind of childhood trauma, sexual trauma, where you learn that the world is very unsafe and out to get you, then that can spark it. Now, at the same time, it can come from the little princess syndrome or the little prince syndrome, where the child is never given any boundaries, given everything they've ever wanted. Any bad behavior is rewarded, and they feel like they can just get away with whatever they want. So there's a variety of different factors that can drive a person to a full-fledged personality disorder, where there's 9 traits, gross sense of entitlement, lack of empathy, overinflated ego, delusions of grandeur, all those kinds of things. And you need 5 out of 9. And so at some point, around 5, 6, 7 years old, this person, based on what they've experienced in their genetics, is going to either form the full-fledged traits of narcissistic personality disorder or not, where they create this reality around them where they're these perfect individuals, can do no wrong, everybody's jealous of them, anything that they do doesn't matter. They're a perpetual victim. Everyone's out to get them no matter what. And they carry those survival traits from 4, 5, 6, 7 into adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
So you're literally dealing with an adult who has the coping mechanisms of a toddler aged child. And as you interact with them more and more, you will see that it is like dealing with a toddler. They don't listen to reason. They're not aware. They're very impulsive. They don't care how their actions impact you.
No, not at all. And their reactions can be seriously one extreme to the other. Like brutal silent treatment to the point of emotional torture, or like just screaming at you and lashing out and blowing your phone up. And I mean, it's one extreme to the other. I mean, that's been my experience. And on page 149 of your book, you talk about that need for drama, and that's what it is. I mean, it's like this need for drama. It's like they can't survive without it. And I am as confident when I say this as I am about anything. I have dealt with 2 legitimate narcissists in my lifetime, and both of them did this. Although they executed their drama a little differently, they both did it. I mean, the traits were very, very similar. I mean, out of the literal blue, they would accuse me of something absolutely outlandish. I mean, crazy. And like I said earlier, I mean, I just fed right into it and allowed them to make this massive spectacle of me in the process. And I just, I ate right out of the palm of their hands because I gave them the reaction that they wanted. I mean, my tears were like crack to these people. And so in terms of like the drama, what is the wildest behavior that you've ever witnessed from a narcissist?
I mean, these people are completely unpredictable. They can get dangerous. They can get violent. They have explosive anger. And I really feel bad for the victims of violent crimes from narcissists. A lot of them commit domestic violence. And, you could be having a perfectly happy date, go dancing, go to a comedy show, everything's great. And in the blink of an eye, before you know it, you're in a deadly situation. And I feel bad for the victims that actually get killed as a result of that. Because it happens. It happens. So there's such a quick turnaround with their explosive anger. And probably the most upsetting thing is then they'll just go and blame the victim. Well, she shouldn't have made me so angry. He shouldn't have made me so angry, and I wouldn't have had to do what I needed to do. Well, nobody deserves to be killed.
Right.
They'll just never take any accountability, which is why I tell people that if it's gotten even remotely physical, your life is in danger. It's going to escalate. There's going to be some kind of bad mood that they're in. There's going to be some kind of fight. And even if they kill you accidentally, you're still dead at the end of the day.
Oh my God. Yes, you're right. You're right. I have never heard anyone explain that any better. You're right. I mean, caring about and even associating with a narcissist closely, it is dangerous to a person's overall health and well-being. It is. What's the most damaging side effect you see in your patients and the people who come to your narcissistic abuse recovery center? I mean, of course, the ones who have survived.
You are conditioned from the day that you meet a narcissist to put the entire emotional burden of the relationship on your shoulders, because the narcissist is telling you, you need to fix this. You said the wrong thing. You're doing that wrong. You need to be better. You need to serve me more. And so people feel so guilty over everything, over things that they never should have felt guilty about, right? She hit me and I called the cops, and now she's blaming me for breaking up the family. Well, she hit you. What else are you supposed to do at that point? These narcissists don't understand that their actions have consequences. And if they treat you like garbage, and are verbally, psychologically abusive, if they're cheating on you, the consequence of their actions might be that you remove yourself. You decide to leave. Narcissist doesn't like that. And they're going to do mental gymnastics to gaslight you through guilt trips, through telling you it didn't even happen, through trying to convince you that it's not that bad, into staying so that they can continue to abuse you.
Right.
Because a healthy, stable relationship is something that you and I want, but that is not the narcissist's motivation. They find stability boring, 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 boring. They will find that too boring to handle. And they need to shake things up and stir drama with you. So no matter what you do, the relationship is degrading and you try to get it back on track. Okay, maybe I'll do more for them. Okay, maybe I'll just stay silent. Maybe I'll just completely act like a robot. And nothing helps. So people who come to me, first of all, one of the top questions is always like, am I the narcissist? Because they've been so gaslighted that up is down and left is right. And they don't even know what their part in it was or anything like that. And then after that, they say, well, I feel so guilty. And they're so confused and feeling so guilty that they're more likely to go back time and time again. That's why it takes an average of 7 to 10 times to get out of this stuff. So the narcissist is a parasitic personality. And if you think you've hit rock bottom with this person, you're not even close to rock bottom. They will stoop to such lows. They will take all of your money. They will make you declare bankruptcy. They will make you into an empty shell of your former self. They will give you depression and migraines and physical ailments and not even bat an eye. And they just don't care.
You know, I stayed sick a lot during my childhood, and I keep tracing back a lot of what you're saying to my childhood because I know that the people that are listening will benefit from this, especially if maybe if they suspect that they're being raised by a narcissist, or maybe they're in close proximity to one, they care about one. When I was a kid, everything you're saying here is just, it's really just like it's coming back around full circle. When you said the stability is boring, okay, so they do get bored very, very easily. And this is something, when you're a child that you don't always understand. And so you keep trying, to do better, to do something to please them. And then as you get older and you migrate toward and attract, other narcissistic personalities, then you start trying to do the exact same thing. And in romantic relationships, they're never faithful. I mean, I've never known of any narcissistic personality that has been able to be faithful to anybody.
They're not faithful because, again, there's nothing going on the inside. It's just shame, boredom, darkness, darkness. And so when you build your entire personality around external validation, you can't get enough of it from one person.
Right.
And they are morally bankrupt individuals that have no empathy for their victims. And so in their mind, it's like, why have a boyfriend when I could have a boyfriend and a husband? Why have 2 girlfriends when I could have 3 girlfriends?
Right.
They don't value you as a person. They see you as external. This is why you're called supply. You're supplying them with their entire personality. And they have no problem cheating, if not physically, then emotionally. And if not emotionally, then they're lining people up on the back burner so that they can jump ship quickly to them, because they know that this thing with you is going to blow up at some point. They've done this time and time again in their adult lives. And you get maybe like a year, if you're in close proximity to them, for the cycle to complete, the love bomb, devalue, discard, and then they hoover you back.
Mm-hmm.
So they're constantly looking at, okay, this person I can hook up with. This person has a nice house that I like to hang out at. This one makes me look really good to my workplace. And it's all me, 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 me. What are they doing for me?
Right.
And so they will just take that external validation and constantly seek it out anywhere they can get it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that it's possible for them to change? Have you ever seen like a narcissistic person who's rehabilitated?
I haven't seen it. I've coached people on 6 continents out of 7 because I'm pretty sure there's not narcissistic penguins in Antarctica.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. And these, like I said before, there's these so-called self-aware narcissists on social media. I have no problem with them spreading education and knowledge about their internal thought process. I think it's helpful for people. I would never date one because you don't know how they are behind closed doors.
Mm-mm.
And they are like rubber bands. You can stretch them a little bit, but then they return to their original form.
Mm-hmm.
And these people have been in therapy for 4, 5, 6 years, consistent, weekly, multiple times a week, anger management kind of therapy, just to learn that you can't hurt people just because you're hurt. You can't lash out at other people just because you're feeling upset. And so I tell people when they're like, can they change with therapy? I say, listen, do you want to spend 4 years waiting around for that, for them to have the revelation that you need to treat everybody with dignity and kindness, even when you're mad?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just not enough to maintain a healthy relationship.
Right. So I know the answer to this question, but just in case our listeners don't know the answer, and I'm just piggyback on what you just said, what do you think is the number one red flag, or maybe the overarching trait that one should look for in recognizing someone with NPD that maybe they just started dating? Now, let's just say maybe they're 2 or 3 months into the relationship, and we all know what the first 2 or 3 months is like.
Yeah, you're gonna see love bombing. The main thing is you're gonna feel like this relationship has an expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna feel pushed to jump into things. You're gonna feel rushed. You're going to feel like this person isn't listening to you when you tell them we need to slow things down. And it's going to feel like an inauthentic level of romance.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to get really excited about someone and be like, oh my gosh, I want to see you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I want to see you every day of the week. If you're telling this person, I can't see you every day of the week, I have a job, we can see each other twice a week, and they're getting angry at you, or they're trying to punish you for that, that's somebody who already feels entitled to more time and energy than you are willing to give.
Mm-hmm.
That's somebody who's already not listening to you. That's somebody who's already violating your boundaries that you set up.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure that as you move forward in the relationship, if you're feeling rushed, if you're feeling like this is overwhelming, this is a lot, and you say that to the person, what's their response going to be? You don't want to make any lasting decisions with somebody before you've seen them very angry or very disappointed, because this is where the mask slips with a narcissist. It's real easy to be fun and charming and lighthearted when nothing bad's happening.
Right.
But how do they act when something bad is happening? Do you see an ugly side to them that you didn't know about?
Mm-hmm.
If you have not seen this, you should not be getting pregnant, getting in a marriage, moving in together, because narcissists' whole MO is they try to trap you quickly. They know that the love bombing is very fleeting. You get 3 to 6 months on average. 6 is a lot. And they need to trap you because all narcissists have a fear of abandonment, and they want to make it as hard for you to leave as humanly possible. Okay. So the relationship should be going at your pace. Mm-hmm. And if you say no to them, then they need to respect that and listen to that.
Right. What have you noticed about a child's mindset who has been raised by a narcissist?
They need to do what they need to do to survive. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
And you know, they are oftentimes doing the narcissistic parent's bidding without even knowing it.
Yes.
You know, so if the parent wants to get to the ex-spouse, they'll do it through the child, and they'll just fill their mind with all this stuff. You can't trust mommy. Mommy left us. Mommy doesn't love you. That takes a lot to undo. Mm-hmm. And you have to outwardly say those things. I do love you. You're my top priority. You're my best friend. You're my number one goal. This was not about you at all. Mommies and daddies sometimes split up. It doesn't mean I don't love you any more than, you know, saying all those things that maybe other kids would just understand intuitively.
Right.
Because you're basically doing damage control for that other toxic parent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was in, looking back on my childhood, I was in fight or flight a lot. I mean, I remember being really, really nervous at a young age, you know, more nervous than any child really should be. And I remember expecting defeat and worrying a lot. Like, I'm talking about by the time I was in kindergarten. And it was because of all the shit that was going on in my house with, you know, my father's unpredictable moods. And I mean, everything, I mean, that you've talked about so far is just, it's knocked me off my feet because it's just describing what I went through for so many years. And I didn't have a clue that my life wasn't normal. You know, I thought that was the norm.
Of course. I mean, you had nothing to compare it to, right?
Right.
But kids from a very early age, like you're saying, 5, 6, they know who the stable parent is and who the nutcase is.
Yes.
They don't have the words to articulate it. But you will often see kids in kindergarten at that age, when it's time to go to dad's house, they've got a stomach ache and they don't want to go. Mm-hmm. Or they're, you know, trying to fake an illness or trying to get out of it. Mm-hmm. And they really, really don't want to go to that parent's house because they know that something's off, but they just don't have the words.
Right, right. And I've also seen kids be so manipulated by a narcissistic parent that narcissistic parent gets a hold on the kid, and then they can turn against the parent, that they even know that parent is safe, and they will still turn on that parent.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever been in these relationships as an adult, you know that these are master manipulators. Mm-hmm. They know how to say and do certain things to get people to like them. They've been tricking people into liking them their entire lives. And so, of course, a child is going to fall for something like that.
Yeah, and they lie without remorse. You know, these big lies.
They lie like they're ordering lunch. They do not care about lying. They think if they get caught, they'll be able to just talk their way out of it.
Right.
Lying is like their natural language. Mm-hmm. If they're talking, they're probably lying.
Right. That's so true. It's really no exaggeration at all. And when you are in these relationships, whether they be intimate or platonic or biological, you know, whatever relationship it may be that you're in with a narcissistic person, you really, really do feel really kind of trapped. And I know that in one relationship, I was scared to death to exit. And then the other relationship was more like I was just this, beat down little timid creature that it was like this attachment that I had that was just nuts. And so in your book, you talk about the Riptide method, and that's to help people exit their narcissistic relationships. And although I didn't know what I was doing at the time, I used this method to exit one of my narcissistic relationships. And so, would you provide an example of when using this method would be beneficial, and maybe talk about what it looks like in real life?
Yeah, so the Riptide method is when you are getting out of the relationship physically and emotionally, slowly but surely. And it's kind of like if you get trapped in a riptide in the ocean, you can't swim directly to the shore. You have to go slowly parallel until you get back to the land.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you are living with a narcissist, if you have kids with a narcissist, if you need to go through a divorce with them, if you have all these ways in which you've intertwined your life with them, you can't just block them and pick up and move and be out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are doing things slowly but surely to make sure that you're out of it at some point,
mm-hmm.
if you can't do it right away. So it's good to set a date. By the 4th of July, I'll be out of here. By my birthday, I'm going to go on this vacation with them, and then I'm going to end it. You pick a date in the future, you stick to it as best that you can. And during that time, you are setting yourself up for success to make your final exit. So you're taking a box of your stuff and moving it to your parents' house so that it's easier. You're getting in contact with your friends. Hey, is it cool if I crash on your couch for a week? You are looking up apartments in other neighborhoods. You're getting all your evidence together if you have to go through some kind of custody battle or some kind of domestic violence police report situation.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking screenshots when they're abusive and saving it. You are emotionally disengaging. So you snap out of how do I fix it mode and you snap into how do I exit mode.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stop looking at how do I fix it, you will emotionally disengage.
Mm-hmm.
You will stop participating in arguments that are going nowhere. You will stop feeling like you're the problem. So you're emotionally preparing yourself. You're grieving the relationship before you ever get out of it, so that when that date comes along, you feel stronger than you have in a long time, and you are ready to make your escape from this toxic person, this abusive person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my experience with the Riptide method is by kind of operating on the low and not letting the narcissist know exactly what I was doing. I was, plotting and planning behind the scenes. That gave me time to process a lot, and I got way more confident. It just magically worked. I got more confident and seeing the end result, of being away out of the relationship and being self-reliant and not having to depend on this person. Oh my God, the worst thing you can do is depend on a narcissist for something. Oh my God. And that went on with me for, the first basically 3 decades of my life with my father. And so when I was, breaking away out from underneath his, thumbnail with, the finances, because all of my resources came from him. That breakaway was intimidating and scary, but using the Riptide method, and again, at the time, I didn't really know what I was doing, just not telling him my every move made me more aware, more confident, and I was able to think with clarity because I didn't have him in my ear saying, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. And so I had to mention the Riptide method during our interview because people need to know. I mean, they need to know that there is a strategy.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point that you bring up. You should never be warning your narcissist that you're planning to exit because, again, they can get violent and dangerous, but also this person knows how to manipulate you at this point.
Mm-hmm.
This person, if you warn them, I'm going to leave, they're going to switch up their manipulation and they know what works on you.
Mm-hmm.
They know if they tell you, you can never make it without me, you're going to be second guessing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are in a chess game with this person as you're planning your exit. It's not one that you started or ever wanted to be a part of. This is the dynamic that the narcissist forces. And
Right.
if you're in a chess game with somebody, you don't want to tell your opponent your next moves. That's not a good strategy.
Right. So I have one more question that I would love to ask you. And this question is more related to my work because everything that I do, I view through the lens of conscious creation and why people's lives look the way they look. And that's why I'm always researching subconscious beliefs and coaching people to reverse those beliefs to ones that are more empowering. And being, raised by a narcissist, subconscious beliefs, they control our behaviors, up to like 90%. And so this is a question that I would really like your take on. And so I strongly believe in manifestation. And the two narcissistic people that I knew very well were really excellent at getting what they wanted. However, a lot of trouble followed them, one in particular. And I believe that every energy that we put out there comes back to us in like kind. And the energy that they put out obviously was rooted in manipulation and cruelty and hate and jealousy. So, I believe that their bad luck was actually karma. So I would just like to know what your experience is with this, and have you been able to make any observations that would back up my theory?
Yeah, I really like your theory. And this is exactly why I call narcissists low vibrating individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are that selfish and that self absorbed and that callous and conniving, and you cheat and you lie to get what you want, you are vibrating at a lower frequency that is not helpful to society, other people, and people pick up on that. They
Mm-hmm.
see that over time. It might take months or years, but eventually they see, wow, I've done so much for this person and they never even cared about me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, narcissists are very successful in business. They'll be the CEO, they'll be the politician because they don't care about pulling dirty tricks. They'll stab you right in the back and sleep fine at night.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's a recipe for a lot of monetary success.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as success within their personal relationships, it's virtually zero.
Right.
I mean, a lot of them say that they feel like they're looking at their life through a glass. Like they want to form intimate, vulnerable connections with people, but they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's their karma right there, that you can have all the money in the world, but you are still so selfish. You have so much lack of empathy for other people that what does it matter?
Right.
So I totally agree that they will have success. They will have money. They will have, good looks, power, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as their intimate relationships and love and feeling fulfilled and feeling like you know your place in the world and you are on the right path for you, they're never going to feel that. And that's ultimately their biggest karma for
Right.
how they treat people.
Right. Right. Because there's no happiness, and their egos are so incredibly fragile that they can walk into a room full of people and feel superior and just confident as hell because maybe they have on the most expensive watch in the room, okay? But then they run into somebody within 5 minutes that has an even more expensive watch. And at that point, they're, phew. And I think that at that point, they start looking for something to make them feel superior again. And I think that it's just this crazy freaking cycle. And that's where a lot of that drama comes in. You know, I think that when they get super agitated, that they have to bring in that drama to just, you know, feed that need that they have. It's absolutely bizarre and fascinating and scary on so many different levels. And that's why we've got people like you out there who are specializing in this and helping people. And so before we close out our interview, would you talk a little bit about how people can find you and your, because you founded the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Center. And so I would love for people to be able to find you. And for those watching or listening, I bought my copy of your book off Amazon, and I bought it on Saturday, and it shipped on Monday. So super quick.
I didn't even know that, but that's great to know.
Yes.
Thank you for
I wanted you to know that, yeah, because I have a book coming out soon, and it's my first one, and so I'm letting all my authors know, you know. So, great experience. It's a great book. Very informative.
Well, congratulations on your book. That's very exciting.
Thank you.
And, yeah, you can find me. I'm on TikTok at Danielle Radin. I'm on YouTube at Danielle Radin MMJ. And, yep, my book is on Amazon. And I also offer one-on-one remote narcissistic abuse recovery coaching. So you can email me for that. It's just my name. It's just DanielleRadin@gmail.com.
Okay, well, I'll make sure that all of your social media handles and your contact information are published along with this episode of the podcast. So everybody can find you that needs you, because I know there's a lot of people out there that do. Maybe they don't realize it now, but hey. Now they know you exist. So, and I found you on TikTok, and your videos are fabulous. And I had wanted to contact you and ask you to be a guest on my podcast for a while, and I'm so glad that I did. So thank you so much, Danielle, for joining us today. I greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your own personal experience.
Yeah.
It's going to help so many people to know that they're not alone, because this is such an isolating thing. So when we, you know, bring it out in the light and do podcasts or have communities on social media of people who have been through something similar, it's just healing for everybody.
That's right. That's right. Especially for the people that are listening that are on the fence if they are being heavily influenced by a narcissistic person. And that's why I asked the questions that I asked today, because if I would have just known this so many years ago, it would have saved me a lot of confusion and heartbreak and just really unnecessary drama and trauma, you know. So I think our conversation is highly, highly beneficial, and I appreciate you so much.
Appreciate you too. Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay, well, I hope to talk to you again soon, and so we'll sign off and have a great rest of your day.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you guys having me. Sorry about the technical difficulties in the beginning, but this was so great. Your questions were so thought-provoking. I was really impressed with how you prepared for this podcast. I've been on quite a few of them at this point, and this was just a top-notch experience. So thank you so much.
Good. Well, when you have been, you know, in a situation your whole life with a narcissist, you know, you listen to videos like yours through a different lens. You read a book like this from a totally different perspective. If you haven't dealt with a narcissist, oh my God, you truly just don't have any idea what it's like. And it, like I said in the beginning, it can totally mess you up if you don't realize it and become aware. So that's why I wanted to talk to you today.
Yeah. And it's so great that, you know, you took your experience from childhood and now you're using it to help others and enlighten others. Like that's really the best thing that you can do.
That's right. That's right. And to make people aware that they do have an innate power to create their physical realities, and their subconscious beliefs have everything to do with that. And when you're raised by a narcissist, your subconscious beliefs are not empowering. They are the absolute opposite, and it's all strategic. And so just becoming aware of that is like a pot of gold.
Yeah, absolutely true. When you see it, you can't unsee it.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
The Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope has been brought to you by Thought Snob Media in association with Special Purpose Studios. All production, mixing, and sound engineering by me, Will Swope. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please take a few seconds to give us 5 stars and leave a review. See you on the next Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope.